Blessings, fellow weird and wild ones. My name's Goddess, aka G, aka your friendly neighborhood witch. They, them, their pronouns, please and thank you, point blank, period. Thank you for joining me in the practice of finding our way back to wholeness. This is our temple, our playground, our life, and our truths. During our audio session together, I will be talking with my village on how we are healing, changing paradigms, and decolonizing and degendering the mind. You are not alone. You are enough. Let's plant these divine seeds together. This work is for the collective from me, Brandon, Brenda, Kay, and Vesta. And there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes. Find ways to support and reciprocate all the co-creators on the show at the links below. Grab your pens and paper, grab your woes, and let go. You can rest. Onika Rains is a proud dirt child, homegrown out of the weeds of Youngstown, Ohio. She is a therapist by day and a rest doula by night. Onika believes in abolition in the complexity of all people and in her right for rest as a Black Indigenous queer. Windafire is a 17-year-old healing artist who uses music, fashion, magic, and meditations. His first single, Alive with Pride, produced by Liz Berlin through Creative Life Support, had its debut as an opening act for Big Frida at People's Pride Pittsburgh in 2019. He is an active co-collaborator with rest doula Onika Rains on Black Dream Escape, which is a monthly art installation centering Black sleep and rest. By using original meditations and lullabies, they soothe and rest through a live expression of our own rest practices. He is also an active member of Dreams of Hope and an intern with Youth Express. And then finally, we have the elder Christina Springer, is an alt-Black artist who uses text, performance, video, and other visual expressions. Her fourth collection of poetry, The Splooge Factory, was released by Frayed Edge Press in November 2018. San Jose, Dayton, and Pittsburgh recently exhibited Futuristic Relics and Motherboard Sacred, a collection of 80 paintings, fabric, mixed media objects, and text from a museum of our Black utopian womanist future. Springer serves as the resident elder for Black Dream Escape. Cave Canem shaped her voice. Springer resides in Pittsburgh, where she home educates her son. Welcome, y'all.
And it's Cave Canem.
Hey. Cave Canem. Thank you. Can you say that one more time?
Cave Canem.
Cave Canem. Thank you.
It's fine. I messed it up in one of our own interviews one time.
Like, oh. I always need to check my the bios before I read them, and I did not this time. So thank you for that.
But everybody does it, and it's fine. It's Latin. It's Latin, and it's Cave Canem is a home for Black poetry that was started by Cornelius Eady and Toy Derricott, and they got their inspiration for the name from the tile at Pompeii of that black dog breaking off its chain, and it says Cave Canem, beware of the dog.
Ah, okay. Now I understand.
And as Black poets, we are always breaking the chain.
Yes.
With our big barks.
Loud and proud. I love it. This is the first time that I've had more than just one guest on the show at once. So this is exciting, and I'm so honored that you all took time out of your days and your practices and Black Dream Escape to be here now. So thank you so much. Before we get started, there's just a couple things that we always do here on the Sensitive Community Show. And the first thing is we share our pronouns and the race or ethnicity in which we embody. So I'll start. My name is Goddess, and I am Black-bodied. And I use they, them, their pronouns.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Windafire. I use all pronouns, and on my mom's side, I'm Black. I'm Black all the way around. But on my mom's side, I'm Panamanian and Bajan specifically.
360 degrees.
Sorry, keep
Go ahead,
myself
Onika.
on mute. Oh, thanks, Christina. Okay, I am Onika. I use she, her, and they, them interchangeably. I was born from a Black mother who raised me, and I consider myself a lost native. My father is Dene and white.
Okay. I am Christina Springer, and I use she, her pronouns, but whatever makes anyone comfortable is good with me. I actually have a definition for alt Black. I am Black like Windafire, 100%, all the ways around. But alt.Black embraces my ancestors when they arrived from Panama and Barbados in a two-box America, which only left open spaces for Black or white. It rejects assimilation. It celebrates the refusal of white supremacy. It claims our African forebears. It chooses solidarity with Blackness, sometimes at our own expense. It remembers, recalls, and recollects. Black centers my Blackness while leaving room for my many-layered identity.
Thank you for that definition. It reminds me of a previous episode of TBN when they were describing the complexities of which how they define their Blackness. And I think there is so much more room for acknowledging the ways in which our Blackness is multifaceted. So thank you for saying that. Someone told me the other day, an elder in our own community of, our nationality is really just depends on where the boat decided to stop. I was like,
thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Really, woo, that hit. That really, really hit. And then our check-in for the day is, at this moment, what is your body telling you about your state of rest? And I guess we can go in just the same order too. I'll go at the end though.
Okay, so today what my body is telling me is that I need to fix this COVID sleep schedule that I've gotten for myself and get back into the normal routine that I usually have and get some more rest than what I've been getting on average.
My body is telling me that it's been working hard, and so I feel settled because I've been able to put my energy somewhere all week. And that shoulders are a little tense because I've started weight training. So I'm feeling that right now, feeling a little tension, but also pretty settled and comfy on this couch.
My body is pretty tired and it needs a lot more rest. It's been a very, very busy week. There's been a lot to get done, and the body remembers everything. And my body is spending a lot of time this week reminding me of all the times I did not stop and rest when I was in my 20s and 30s and living my wild life. And it isn't inviting me to contemplate revisiting the idea of spending a little bit more time focusing on being quiet?
Ooh, my body is telling me that it could use a lot more rest today as well. Coming into the fall season, which I feel like it happened faster than I was expecting, is really grounding for me. But over the past week, there's just been a lot of tumultuousness and shifts with other things in my life. And so just really taking the time, like you were saying, Christina, with just like being silent. And also when I agree with you with like getting back into a regular schedule or like a loving routine of like when I sleep and like how I prepare myself to go to sleep feels really important. So my body is a little achy right now, especially in the hips. But I feel also like settling into my groundedness as we start this conversation. So yeah, thank you for that check-in, y'all. So I'm trying to think of like the best way to kind of navigate having 4 people on. However, I think it'll just happen naturally. So free feel to flow, like we are at a family gathering, I guess. So what were some of the pivotal moments in which your life, in your life, where you remember deep rest?
I'll go first. I look to my childhood for a lot of the like foundation is the rest that I go by now. So I'm thinking about the way in which I like to play when I was younger. It was just out in the woods or in nature. And like you said, Goddess, in my bio, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and it's supposed to be a city, but it's very rural, and there's just like a lot of open space. So my core definition of deep rest comes from me just being out amongst like tall grass and spending hours out that way, just doing pretty much nothing, looking at the grass, eating it, experience it as I don't know, about like 8, 9 years old until I moved to Pennsylvania in my teens. So I look to those times in those fields and just like going through all the senses of nature of like a form of deep rest. And as an adult, when I started doing healing work with Joy Commit, she would always emphasize drinking water, especially after crying or after a session with her. And in those moments, I felt deep rest because I never really understood dehydration or how important it was to be hydrated through all these transitions. So for me, it was like transition to a person in healing versus like my struggling or transitioning through a new job. And even daily, just going through the motions of our days, water has just become so key and a moment of deep rest for me also. I think those are the 2 moments, being in the fields and my time drinking water while I'm healing. Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about transitioning from being in suffering to being in a space of healing, do you feel like that shifts in intention? Do you feel like that allowed for more rest, or at least a sense of what you need for rest?
I think it turned on a switch for me in that the healing felt more like work and a lot of unrest. And so once I started going beyond like just at first like identifying what exactly I'm healing from and trying to move into the path of just like maintenance, that the first, I guess, like couple of months of taking that class and looking at myself and the way you should or could when you are trying to like stop these lies that you might be telling yourself after a couple of years. All of that is difficult work, and it me restless. And so after I got through that stage, I needed to think about how I could give myself a break from doing all of that work. Because after a while, when I became independent in my healing and tried to do some of the reflection work on my own, I also just started becoming judgmental about in what way I was healing. And so I went to rest to stop that judgment and to give myself more time for this healing journey. Despite like this pull to rush through it and kind of give myself a deadline on like how I'm going to be different. Something of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go Windafire? Yeah, good.
So a moment of deep rest for me is my mom, our resident elder, has always made sure that in my childhood I have been very rested. For as long as I can remember, since I was a child, it has been very hard for me to go to sleep. I rest in very different ways. I don't necessarily rest through sleep, though that is one of the ways that I do get a lot of rest. But it has always been hard for me to go to bed and go to bed at a set time. So a time when I have felt like a really big moment of big rest, even though I've been rested throughout all my whole life, is when my family and I went to a family reunion in Barbados. When we touched down in Barbados in the Caribbean, it was such a beautiful thing to me because it's such a beautiful feeling to be where your ancestors were, where your ancestors lived, where they ate, where they made friends, where they found each other, where it's nice being in the land where your ancestors were. I feel a lot, and I don't know. It's really nice being close to the ocean. The ocean is so beautiful there. It was such a restful moment being there because I was surrounded by family. I was surrounded by ancestors. I was surrounded by the ocean. And that was a moment of really deep rest, I feel, for me. Mm-hmm. And it was really liberating, I feel, going to a place where it was a majority of Black people instead of seeing a majority of white people there around.
Yeah, like Onika, like connecting back with the land seems strong there too for you. And I love how you brought up that rest doesn't have to look like sleeping or being in our bed, but like rest practices can continue in other ways throughout our daily lives.
So I guess moments that I have been, when I was young, I was a championship wrester. And and I was the kid who really did not actually like to go outdoors because I liked my books and I found my books very restful. And so I would curl up and live inside of a novel. And that to me was restful. And so I was often put outside with my books. And I really loved that as well. And I, as a child, loved nap time more than anything in the world. And so they were always making me get up from nap time because I loved it. And as I grew older, I needed to function in the world as a young adult, which meant that I was not as rested as I wanted to be, and had to figure out a way to work with that, and found meditation as a restful thing of just sitting. And I would sit with my candles, or I would sit with crystals, or I would just sit anywhere. And and do visualizations often of body regulation, and then of course, and that was my primary way of being rested. And then now later, and then that grew into being able to honor your own schedule. Is the way that I find myself moving through life as the most rested. So later in life, periods of deep rest for me would show up at artist retreats when I was completely on my own time and in my own time, and um, and found that I was completely rejuvenated when I could stop when I needed to stop and start when I needed to start. And um, and I really cherish those moments of finding ways to be in my own time, in the same way that Windafire was talking about going to Barbados and touching down on the land and being in a time outside of time by connecting with ancestors, by connecting with the ocean, is trying to find ways to fit those ways we can be outside of time. To me, are my most restful times, are my most restful moments. My moments of deepest rest are when I can be on my time and in my own time.
Yeah, so much of what each of you said takes me back to memories of my own rest. I recently did a workshop with oh my gosh, Julia Mallory of Black Mermaids. And they actually mentioned y'all, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. And she asked us all what we remember like of rest as a child. And rest for me was actually not when I say rest, like being in bed and like sleeping wasn't always a safe space for me as a child. And that was the first time that I actually realized that in that moment, and to take time to just like process that was really beautiful. But I do remember times of rest where I was able to be on my own time. Like you were saying, Christina, it was usually when I was outside and in nature, and I was building homes with like sticks and twigs and potting like weeds and like little wild lilies in my plant, in my like painted pots, and just able to kind of be and exist. That was were moments where I remember being able to truly breathe and take in the moment. And also it was moments when I was able to look up at the sky. And that's one of the signs when I know I'm deeply rested, is when I'm fully taking in my environment and like looking up at the sky. At first I thought that was a cat, and I was like, wow, that's a really articulate cat. I love it.
I apologize. That's my my ringtone.
That is great. That is so great. So yeah, those are my fondest memories of rest. Are being outside, or being read to, and also reading. I loved reading too. That was a beautiful escape for me as a child. So, as Black-bodied individuals, how and who told you not to rest? And how did you hold those beliefs in your adult years?
I think, well, kind of trying to make everything connect in my own story. When I, again, love going out into the fields to rest as a little one, but there were a lot of times when going outside just wasn't a safe way to use my time. Youngstown, I talk about it a lot, and like over the years, I've realized how much of an impact living in this particular way has had on my adult years. So back in like the 90s and the early 2000s, Youngstown was just a dangerous place to live, and especially in the neighborhood that I lived in. And so a lot of times we couldn't spend time out in the fields or outside of our houses for fear of being murdered. And it's something that I don't really like to involve in my arrest story or when I'm talking to people, because a lot of my arrest was dissociative at the time. And so saying all of that to say is that my environment in my early years was kind of the evidence that I took that rest was very difficult and nearly impossible. And so when I started working as an adult and moving around and becoming more independent, I took that to mean that if I found a way to rest that wasn't just sleeping, that it would be challenged by the things in my environment, whatever they might be. And that's just kind of the message, even if it wasn't true, even if I was living in a different neighborhood or living around different people, it's still just like that's ingrained in me that it's not safe to rest. And when I first started trying to rest intentionally, that was something that I really had to look at and feel comfortable with doing, especially outside, without that fear, and indoors, just being able to recognize that chaos is possible or change is possible. It's pretty universal constant. And so I've had to, in my adult years, just learn how to live with that possibility in order to rest. So I think to wrap all of that up, it's just that the way in which I figured out how to rest is very deeply defined by my ability to separate what's going on in the world or in my environment with what's going on in like my internal world.
I'd like to take a moment to talk about that more, because you guys or y'all, excuse me, I'm trying to get out of my binary language. Y'all are always talking about how rest is always possible. And when I first heard y'all say that, I was like, is it though? But then as I heard it more and more and started to really take in all that could mean, it really is true that if we have the practices set and if we know what to do, then rest is possible. So that about like the chaos around you and growing up in a place that might not always have been safe outside, like other places in which you can find rest. That's so key. So thank you for sharing that, because that's the first time that I've heard your reasoning around how rest is always possible, and that hits home. Thank you.
I forgot the question we were answering.
It's okay. I was asking how we have been taught to not rest, and who has told us to not rest.
Got it. Okay. Because I was very excited to be talking about the ways that rest is always possible. And
we can do that. We can do that. We can do all the things. I love tangents.
Okay. Because I think I had a very strong meditative practice as a young adult, and often would be on the go a lot because I have most of my life been an independent artist, except when I got sidetracked by day jobs. And and um, and even in the course of day jobs, one of the ways that I would do that is a trick I taught to Windafire as a young person, which was your happy place, creating inside of the space, which is your body, of having places that you can get to quickly to spend a few moments and have a strong visualization and to be in that happy place. And so in moments of great frustration, if I just step back and I stop for a moment and I just go to my happy place. And I have a number of, Winston talked about finding your happy place in a video, and everybody's happy place is different, but you create a strong visual image of a place where you would really rather be. And you go enjoy that place. My space is this beautiful lagoon in a forest that has this magnificent waterfall. That's one of my places. And I just go and I have a rock there. And I go sit on my rock. And that way I don't have to leave the building. I don't have to go find a forest. I just go inside of myself and I'm there. And it's the place that nobody can get to but me. And it's inviolate and nobody can bother it. And I can get there. I've trained myself over time to just go there if I need to go there. And because we're not, coming back to the question, because we're not as Black-bodied people, we're not supposed to be rested. Our labor belongs to the capitalist culture and society and nation that we live in. And because our labor has enriched white people tremendously, and I hate to bring white people into this wonderful conversation, but because I prefer to leave them outside of every room that I'm in with Black people.
I love that. I love that so much.
But when we talk about rest practices and we talk about how dependent they are upon our consistent, continual, and ever available labor, finding ways to not participate are so critical. Whether is being in a meeting and going to your happy place and not offering them the responses that they so desperately require from us in the course of a microaggression of not rising to the challenge of refusing to labor, not telling them that they're a very good person. I find these all very restful practices in the course of a day-to-day life of refusing to engage, of refusing to work for them, of refusing to offer them my anger, or refusing to correct their misconceptions, and allow them to exist in their arrogance and ignorance, and not taking responsibility for that. So I think resting anywhere and always can even be a practice of refusing to participate. And for me, growing up, that ties in very much with a very clear memory I have when I was a very little girl, and I was at the very beginning of the failed post-racial experiment, and I was the only Black child in a newly integrated environment. And I remember my mother very clearly explaining to me that I was an ambassador for the Black race, and that I had to constantly stop, explain, be perfect, be excellent, that until they got to know us as good human beings, that we would never be free, and that was my responsibility. And that's not a very restful thing to tell a child because you are always handing over your peace and solitude to others. You have to work twice as hard. You have to be twice as good. You have to know everything in every instant. There's no moment to relax. There's no moment to slip up. And I think this capitalistic culture built on the enslavement of Black people is perpetuated in that need to integrate, that need to play by their ever changing rules and participate in their games and their illusions of adapting to an integrated world which does not exist. And so the happy place became very significant for me in coping with that and in letting that go. I am nobody's ambassador.
Um,
You could take it all in.
yeah, I need a moment to take that all in. Let that knowledge bomb drop on you. So, as it says in my bio, I'm 17. I'm not yet a legal adult. I'm not mature enough to be an adult. I'm not going to be mature enough to be an adult when I'm 18. But I have not really been told that I can't rest in my life. At least not told verbally that I can't rest in my life. I'm very fortunate that my mom advocates for my needs very much so. And she has always done that. And she always makes sure that I have what I need and that my needs are met. So I've been very rested ever since I was a child, like I always say. My mom has always had me rested, but society really does tell Black people that we shouldn't rest. We always talk about how racism its primary function is to distract us. I forget who said it. Is it Zora Neale Hurston who said the quote or no? Okay,
it's Toni Morrison, baby.
Toni Morrison. Okay, yeah.
Wow.
Toni Morrison is the person who we always quote her when talking about how racism is distraction, because that's one of her many quotes that is very powerful, and we very much so say it. But that's such a thing in society, and that's such the function of racism. If you're too busy saying, "Hey, I need basic human rights," then are you taking care of yourself? Are you giving yourself to the revolution, or are you giving yourself to yourself and to your community? I feel like there's so many important things to do with activism, but the most important thing to do is to come back to your community and come back to yourself and unlearn habits, unlearn habits, and help other people unlearn habits that are harmful and unrestful. Are you going to go and educate this white person, or are you going to take that time to just take a moment to rest and breathe for everything? If someone is like microaggressing from you. So I feel like that's one way that society has told all Black people and people of color that you can't rest, is that you're always supposed to be productive. That's something that's taken in from everywhere, from back to slavery to the to the failed post-racial experiment to now in the modern era, is that you need to be productive and that your worth is based on your productivity. And that's something that society tells us a lot of times. And sorry, my train of thought just went off the rails.
No, I
yeah,
think
it's okay. It was
and you're coming from you approach rest from a place of liberation and from a place where you've been offered opportunities to view where your place in the world is differently than most people. And so it's sometimes hard for you, I think, to articulate because you live in a different reality sometimes than the majority of the world. It's sometimes hard to communicate. It's sometimes hard to communicate something that it's like explaining to people how to breathe.
Mm, yeah. And I think based off of what you said, one is also like you express the point, but I have to remember that too, is because now that I'm learning these ways of these practices, talking about it with people who haven't experienced them, especially within the Black community. I'm going to say specifically in the Black community, because a lot of the things we're talking about now, they're specific to the Black community, like being able to choose when and not, when to engage and when not to engage in like microaggressions. That's for the Black community. That's not for white folks. White folks, you always have to engage. Let me be clear. Always have to engage. But within the Black community, it feels like speaking two different languages, and like where some of the words are similar and we understand each other from like afar, but it's like just enough of a difference to feel very far away and unattainable. And it's something I'm learning how to like navigate. However, what you guys were talking about around resting as a form of liberation, and how we have been told we can't rest in order to not feel like what it feels like to be free. Like they did this when they enslaved us and kept us working so that we had no time to communicate with each other. We felt like we were stealing back moments of community and rest and love when really those were ours to begin with. We still carry that in our bodies and in our day-to-day practice. For me, rest now looks very different than what it did 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I felt like I had to work in order to gain even like an hour of rest or like a day of rest. And now I work from a place of still feeling that way, but actively putting it in place that rest comes first before anything else. Rest is first, because without rest, I can't do any of the other things wholeheartedly. And that's hard. It's almost like we have to reinvent the work, like the sayings we created up, like we have to work 10 times as hard. I'm like, I'm coming up with new sayings. Like, we have to rest 10 times harder than anyone else just to undo the crap.
And the idea of earning rest, that you've earned rest. And Onika says it all the time, rest is your right. Rest is your birthright. Rest is reparation. Right, Onika?
That's true. Rest is reparations, and we've seen that in a few ways outside of ourselves through the other artistic projects and social justice projects that are surrounding rest, with the Black Power naps and the nap ministry. And I hold on to that belief, again, bringing it back to the personal level, because a lot of our work is intuitive and kind of from our own experiences. But I see that as a right for me and my specific communities that I've been in, because I come from a family of farmers and people who have worked land specifically for money and for well-being. And we talk about generational rest debt, a term that Black Dream Escape follows, because it's informed by epigenetics, and again, that belief that our body keeps these memories and keeps a score of not just our labor, but the labor of our ancestors, our moms, our grandparents, on and on. So the idea that we are owed rest as a form of justice, it makes sense because our bodies are not just like our present bodies, but they're the skin that has seen a lot of work and a lot of wear and tear physically and mentally. And so now it's time to pay all of that rest debt back, and not on our own volition, but also from an outside source. My belief about rest as reparations comes from. And I think it's just important for people to know that even if we ourselves are living a restful life currently, again, because Black folks in general and Indigenous people haven't historically had that opportunity to rest in big ways. We've had to kind of steal it. We have earned it through the centuries. So there's no earning right now. There's only repaying. That's kind of the idea that even if anyone is struggling with feeling like they need to earn rest, you've already done it. It's in your family. Go look through your history. You've earned it. If you need to feel that that itch, you need to scratch that itch that, oh, I need to work for this time. Well, you already have. So there you go. You've done it, Again, I just like to remind people of that because it is hard to get over that feeling that rest needs to be productive. And if you need to feel that way, then someone has already done the work for you. So you can be grateful for that and go about your way.
And like to go along with what you were saying, Onika, because thank you for bringing those. Like, yes, it's in our, we have built up that up. And it's now time for us to rest. How do we have patience and grace with ourselves as we learn how to rest? And also, I'm learning this is I still am judgmental of other people when I see them practicing their rest practices. So how do we start to kind of unpack how that's really rooted also in anti-Blackness and colonization?
Mm-hmm. I look at our rest practices and the ones that we promote through a therapeutic lens because I'm a therapist. And so what I encourage people to do is think of rest and like a rested person as a part of themselves along with other parts, your anxiety, your anger, the part of you that gets depressed, the part of you that wants to heal. There are all these different parts of ourselves. And so I try to teach people that rest is just another part of you and you can name it as like an entity or like another person in your head, but sending rest that the few messages that it needs to hear in order to work for you is essential. And I think that's one way that we can dissolve some of those inclinations to judge other people about their rest practice or the guilt that we have for resting on our own. And you think of rest as your friend or the baby that you need to take care of or the parent that you decided to watch over, however you want to do it. You think of rest as a living being in your life. I think it becomes easier to nurture it and take care of it. So I hear daily just from, again, being a therapist that it's hard for people, especially Black women, Black-bodied individuals in general, to take care of ourselves because we have an urge to take care of other people. And the reason why I encourage people to think of rest as something separate from themselves that they can feed is because it helps people to think that they're not taking care of just themselves, but someone else. And that someone else, even if it was in your head, can be your rest.
I've never thought about it in that way, but it's almost like championing the ways, like championing how we were taught to be caretakers, to caretake for ourselves. Mm-hmm. A little bit like reverse psychology. Maybe not. That's probably not the right
Well, kind of. It is. I think it's just because the issue is that when we have that urge not to take care of ourselves first, it's because it's served a purpose for us. And so we don't want to get rid of that feeling, or we don't want to get rid of that ability to take care of other people. So yeah, in a way, it's kind of like tricking yourself into doing something, but it's harm reductive in that I'm not going to force anyone when they come to me for rest consultation. I'm not going to force anyone to change, but adapt to what you're already doing to make things work better for you. It's kind of like the whole point of therapy in a way, and hopefully if anyone's in therapy right now, this is the work that they're doing, is that there's nothing wrong with you right now. There's nothing to change or fix. Only everything you're doing is for a purpose, and it serves you for some reason, even if it's maladaptive. And so when it comes to rest, I just want to take in what Black Dream Escape teaches. We're trying to help people understand what they have in themselves already. We don't want to develop any new skills in particular, because new skills, they're useful, but when it comes to rest, I don't think it's the time. It's the time to adapt what you already have, because that's less work. And we're not trying to encourage people to work in our in the thing that we do. We are trying to encourage people to work less by resting. And so I think I'm not saying that like learning new things or new ways to heal is a bad thing. It's just that when it comes to rest work and resting therapeutically, again, it's about adaptation. I'm trying to show people that whatever they have right now is what you need. You can already rest. You breathe for 5 seconds, you're resting. So you have all the essential tools. You don't need to go and look for them. And all of that just means that, again, you can rest right now. You don't have to learn how to do it. Yeah, kind of on the soapbox here, but that's all that I want to say.
No, that was beautiful. It reminds me also of how our spirituality has shifted through the diaspora, and how we have, it's always been within us, and you can see it throughout the different ways in which Black folks hold space for different religious, spiritual practices in different countries and throughout cultures. But certain things are similar. But how it's always within us, like this sense of this magic we have within us. It shows up, and the tools in which we have kind of like change based off of where we're at. But the ways of like, how do we create from what we already have and embrace what's naturally within us? That reminds me of that. And I think rest is a form of magic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rest is totally magic. Like you said, I totally agree with that. Rest is definitely magic, because something that a lot of people are, I feel like the definition of magic is something that people gloss over. People are like, magic, that's making things happen where they possibly couldn't. That's things that aren't real, that are happening. But my mom has always taught me that magic is the act of changing consciousness at will. Getting into a different altered state is very important with a lot of magical practices. With some, not so much, but with a lot of them, it's very important. And in rest, you can go into a trance-like state. In rest, you can receive messages from your ancestors, from spirit guides, from lots of different things. Through rest, you can have premonitions. You can see the future through rest. There's so much that, like you said, is magical about rest. And, a lot of magic is healing. Some of it is painful, but a lot of magic is healing. And rest is crucial to healing, crucial to anyone's healing, because always when you're sick, you need to rest. You need to rest to fully get the benefits of what happens. That's all I have. I'm not gonna try and stretch it out.
I think that's alive for Windafire is growing up in a magical household and in a household that has strong faith, but not some hoo-ha external magic. And that thing that you said that lives within all Black people, our ability to change consciousness at will and to shape our surroundings even when under duress. And so if we imagine what we have been able to accomplish when we have been under duress, imagine how much more is possible to accomplish through rest, and how much power we can exert over our consciousness and over ourselves, even through rest. When you do biofeedback, for example, you have to enter a meditative state, and meditation is a form of rest. I just want to add to that, is to setting your mind, setting your body, putting yourself at ease allows your highest self to take over and give direction. And it is through your highest self that you can make the most connections to the best of all possible energies that are available at all times all around us, just sitting around waiting to help.
Yeah. And that's that takes surrender, and that is very hard for us Black folks to do, is surrender, because we don't know what safe surrender or looks like, or surrender looks like most of the time. And that's a part of how not being able to rest has been used and weaponized against us, because it keeps us in this state of always trying to survive. And so we can't take the time to fully sit back, be present, and surrender, and allow, this beautiful exploration in higher self to happen, to see all the possibilities. Not being able to rest has been weaponized against us in order to keep us from, being in the present and going to our higher self and really looking at all the possibilities. That's exactly what this is. And that how Black-bodied individuals, we have not always been able or given the opportunity to understand what surrender looks like. Yes. In safe spaces, without manipulation, and without us being used and siphoned from.
And I also think part of that is generational memory, is intergenerational memory, is ancestral memory, because when we do truly turn inward to ourselves, there has always been retribution. And I think we as Black people will judge each other resting, or we will judge different forms of activism, reactive activism. I view rest as sort of proactive activism, in that it's in that it's white people are gonna white, and there's nothing I can do to control that. All that I can do is control myself, and all I can do, and Winston talks about this. Windafire talks about this a lot, in that that living our best and most happiest life is the most revolutionary thing we can do, because that is the thing that is least expected of us. And so resting is proactive activism, in that you are planning to win, regardless of what they are planning to do about your winning. And
Yes. Yes.
And we saw, we see Tulsa, we see the MOVE bombings, we see how the Black Panthers were infiltrated, we see Rosewood, we see any number of Black thriving, and the way in which it has been viewed as intolerable. And I think there is a portion of our community that is afraid to thrive, that is afraid of what will happen if we don't push back. And so I think there are so many different ways to confront this system that we all live under, and all those ways are valid, necessary, and exceptionally important. However, in order to do some of the reactive activism or reactivism is to care for the toll that it takes on your body, and care for the toll it takes on your time, and care for the toll it takes on your spirit, and care for the toll it takes just in your life when you're out in the streets necessarily protesting. We must begin to align ourselves with being in balance. So if you're going out, allot as much time to being out as you're going to allot to being in. So when you come in from a protest, what's the first thing they want to do? Windafire?
Wait, say that again?
When you come in from a protest, what is the first thing you want to do?
I'm blanking.
Okay.
Oh, clean yourself off. Clean yourself off from all the energy, all of everything that's happened. Yeah, clean yourself off. Clean yourself off.
What they eat. But that's actually not true. I'm just always thinking about food.
I was like, what?
Clean that energy off your body. Before you come in your door, brush all that energy off of you. Leave it outside, right? Then nourish yourself. Hydrate yourself. Be in that body that took you out, right? That body carried you out into the street. So now you need to come be in it and nourish it, hydrate it. And then take time to reflect, not on being out of yourself, but being in yourself. And you can do that through meditation or rest or napping, any breathing, visualizing, putting light around yourself, building up your protective energy. Thank your ancestors. These are all ways of being inside of ourselves. So I guess what I'm suggesting is it is important, or find somebody who can help you do those things, right? Find somebody who can help you care for yourself. Go watch a Black Dream Escape video. Go to our Instagram page and scroll through the affirmations. Sit, breathe. There's so many. It's a menu. It's a buffet. There's a buffet of restful activities that you can do to be in, and avail yourself of that, especially if you're going to be out there.
Thank you for sharing all those resources. And actually, that kind of goes into the next part of, can you tell us more about your Thought Pathway series, the lullaby sessions, and then your rest assessments? I know Onika had to go off actually to a client, but if we could talk a little bit about what Onika does with the rest assessments too, that would be lovely.
Okay. I would actually love to. I'm going to actually take the lead here, because I would like to. I'm very excited about the statement that we came up with about thought pathways, and I would like to just share that statement, because I think it's really important for people to understand. And of course, I can't find it. It's so funny.
That's okay. We got time. At least I have time.
I'm just gonna go to a YouTube video because we have the definition for thought pathways in all of our YouTube videos.
We really spent so much time thinking about precisely what we wanted to say about thought pathways, because I just love the wording that we came up with. Here it is. Thought pathways reject racist and capitalist notions of ownership and hierarchy as evidenced by a culture in which self-help is commodified by experts and gurus. Ancestral knowledge and/or common sense has been turned into a profitable, easily consumable product. The American self-help market is an estimated $9.9 billion annually. So Black Dream Escape coined this phrase, thought pathways, to make it clear that we are human beings on our own journey and that we celebrate critical thinking and spiritual knowing, and more importantly, that we honor process over product. So Black Dream Escape is not sitting here trying to set ourselves up as some guru or expert. Everything that we offer comes out of our own experience, comes out of our own ways of knowing, and more importantly, suggest and invite the people who join us to develop their own thought pathways and develop their own rest practice out of the many offerings and thoughts that we share from our own experience, so that they can make it their own. Rest is a deeply personal thing. And your rest practice is yours and yours alone. And it is up to you, and it is your own responsibility. So we've got to begin to move out of this consumer mindset around spirituality, around rest, around self-healing, where we can just run down to the New Age shop and buy a smudge stick and take it out of culture, context, and history and wave it around our house and think we've done something important. A spiritual practice, a rest practice is something one develops and works on. It's not work, but attends to.
And this is why we call it thought pathways. I mean, we already gave the definition, but like the meaning, the literal meaning of it is, thought pathways is a series that we have on our YouTube, which is Black Dream Escape. It's videos of us and people that we bring onto the show explaining the pathways that their thoughts go down to on resting and certain concepts of rest. And so everybody is different. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different destiny. Everybody is a different person. Some people are similar. Some people are very similar to a T, but everyone is different. And we all think differently. We might think in a similar way, but there's no possible way that we have thought the exact same thoughts. So, I mean, we might have thought the exact same thoughts, but there's no saying that we've experienced it the same. And so, the videos are all about the pathways that our thoughts go down and how we experience rest and ways that we experience these concepts and utilize these concepts into our own practice.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone check them out on YouTube. I've actually used them to fall asleep to because hearing y'all's voices is very soothing for me. But then also to listen to Black folks talking about resting just puts me in the mindset of like, okay, you're safe, you can surrender. And like puts me on, like, leads me into this wonderful journey into my sleep. So I would highly recommend Thought Pathways, the series. And you guys, congratulations. You guys just started working on building a whole set I think for the next like round of thought pathways, or at least like just for your videos in general, which I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. And then the lullaby sessions. Can you say more about that? I also have done one of those with you, Win.
Yeah. So on our website, you can, which is blackdreamescape.com, you can find our different practices and different things that we offer. One of the things that we offer is a lullaby session where you can book me, Onika, or both of us, and we can sing you some songs before you go to bed, in the morning, or in the afternoon. It's really anytime that you have time and anytime that we have time to do this together and rest together. We can sing you some original songs. We can pick out songs for you, or you can pick a song yourself. You can pick multiple songs yourself. And that's what we do. That's our lullaby sessions, and I think those are pretty cool because it's always nice to have someone sing to you.
Yeah.
What's beautiful is that you don't always have someone who you can curl up with and have sing you a lovely lullaby, and so it's so necessary and it's fun to know that there's somebody out there who will sing to you into rest. And I know that was a big part of Windafire's growing up, because Windafire had a whole bedtime routine growing up where I would sing to him, and I even wrote him his own lullaby. And music is a big part of it. It's something that speaks to our childhood selves. Is having that soft, gentle music playing when we're going to sleep, and so much of what they do with their lullabies are try to hit musically the tones that that will evoke that restfulness in you, to make you feel loved and nurtured.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll speak to the rest assessments if that's okay. Also, people, Onika, who is a therapist, and she will take time to walk you through different ideas about your own personal rest. How are you sleeping? Where are you sleeping? What is it like? What are your obstacles? And she'll help you develop a plan to begin to incorporate and develop your own rest practice. And she'll take an assessment of where you're at, where you can be, ideas about where you can go and how to get there, and what some of your obstacles are. And it's very, very helpful to just get it's like a little rest checkup, but loving and supporting and not in a position of judgment. I think something that's so important about where we try to be is to be in a place of non-judgment and to be in a place of whole picture, whole person.
Yeah, and I love the assessments because they're very brief. It's like 15 minutes. You can go on blackdreamescape.com and sign up for one. They are free, but if you have the capacity, you can make a donation to Black Dream Escape. But at the end of it, Onika sent me an email with affirmations that I can say to myself to continue the practice. And then Onika checked up on me later on. I think it was like 2 weeks after, like 2 to 3 weeks after, checked up on me. So it is like, it's like a little like checkup and in the best kind of way. So I recommend that all the folks listening on this podcast go to Black Dream Escape and check that out. Also follow y'all on Facebook and IG and YouTube so you can stay up to date on all the Thought Pathway series. I know you guys sometimes do live IGs too. Sunseed Community finally got an IG, so we will be like following all of those. And also, this season we are doing a BIPOC celebration giveaway. We wanted to show gratitude and support for our BIPOC folks that listen to the show. So if you post on IG and or Facebook a picture of yourself resting, and your favorite quote from this episode and tag Black Dream Escape and Sunseed Community, your handle will actually be put in a drawing for a free 30-minute lullaby session with Onika or Windafire. So make sure you guys do that. We can't wait to see all your pictures, and I'm really excited to bring the BIPOC celebration giveaway your way. Is there anything else you guys wanna say? How are you feeling now? Are you still feeling rested or not rested in some of our cases?
I don't know. I'm feeling energized. Yeah, this is great. This is truly amazing. Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this has been a joy, and I've just gleaned so many like little pearls of wisdom I'm gonna take with me throughout the rest of the day. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, yeah, and thank you to Onika and Christina as well. I think they've both parted because they had to be some other places, but it's been such a pleasure. That's it, y'all. That's our show. Big thank you to Black Dream Escape for providing us with the intro and outro music for season 2. We sincerely love your work and hope rest comes to us all. And big thank you to Vesta for producing our small but mighty podcast. This show is powered by the people. May the abundance come back to you and spread like wildfire. Sunseed Community is a space to practice collective healing. We do this through workshops, body and energy work, tarot, individual container building, and this podcast. To learn more, book us, and support us, visit sunseedcommunity.com and follow us on IG or Facebook at Sunseed Community. Bye, y'all.
Rest will come. Rest will come. Rest will come. Rest will come.